Have you ever noticed how two people can face the same failure, yet one breaks down while the other bounces back even stronger? Same situation, same challenge, but a completely different outcome. Why? The answer isn't luck, privilege, or talent. It's something hidden, an invisible wall inside your mind, your mindset. This is the truth most people ignore. Your mindset silently defines every limit in your life. It decides how you respond to rejection, how you process pain, and how far you'll go before giving up. Carol Dweck, a Stanford psychologist, spent decades studying why some people rise after failure while others never recover. Her discovery was simple, yet life-changing. She found that humans generally live with two kinds of mindsets, fixed and growth. And this single difference shapes everything, from your career to your confidence. A fixed mindset whispers, "You are what you are. You can't change." It tricks you into believing your intelligence, talent, and potential are set in stone. If you fail, it means you're not good enough. So you avoid risk, hide from challenges, and live small, all while protecting an ego that can't afford to be wrong. But the growth mindset speaks a different language. It says, you can become better. It's not about proving yourself. It's about improving yourself. People with this mindset see effort as power, not weakness. They don't run from criticism, they use it. They don't cry over mistakes, they learn from them. They know failure isn't the opposite of success. It's the path to it. Let's imagine two students. Both score low on a math test. The first one thinks, "I'm just not a math person." That's a fixed mindset, and it ends the story right there. The second says, "I didn't study the right way this time. I'll figure it out." That's a growth mindset, and that one sentence changes the entire trajectory of their life. When Dweck observed this pattern in classrooms, she realized she was looking at something far bigger than education. She was seeing the hidden architecture of success itself. The difference between average and extraordinary wasn't talent, it was belief. And that's where you come in. Because whether you realize it or not, your own mindset is constantly shaping how you see the world. Every time you say, "I can't," or "I'm just not that type of person," you're quietly choosing limitation over possibility. You're surrendering to the fixed wall when the door was right there all along. Here's the paradox. The mind can build prisons, but it can also build wings. The same voice that tells you you're not enough can also say you're still learning. The same pain that breaks you can also become your reason to rise. And that's why you're here. Because the moment you understand how your mindset works, you start regaining control over your own evolution. You stop reacting to life and start designing it. Welcome to Deep Dive, where we don't just summarize books, we uncover the psychology that rewires your mind. Today, we're going to break down Mindset, The New Psychology of Success by Carol S. Dweck, and explore how a simple shift in perspective can completely reshape your potential. The story ahead isn't about motivation, it's about transformation. Because once you see your mindset clearly, you'll never see yourself the same way again. Imagine two worlds existing side by side, invisible, yet always shaping every decision you make. In the first world, people live inside invisible glass walls. They avoid the unknown, stay comfortable, and defend their intelligence as if it's fragile. In the second world, people walk on the edge of failure every single day, not because they enjoy pain, but because they know it's the only path to real growth. These two worlds are built not by wealth, not by opportunity, but by mindset. Carol Dweck called them the fixed and growth mindsets, but they might as well be two completely different universes. In the fixed world, success is proof that you're worthy. Failure is proof that you're not. So you chase validation, hide weakness, and fake confidence. Every mistake feels personal. Every rejection feels final. You start living life as a performance, not an experience. But in the growth world, success and failure are just two sides of learning. Here, intelligence isn't a number, it's a muscle. Every time you stretch it, it grows stronger. Here, the question isn't, am I smart? It's, am I improving? It's funny. Schools, jobs, even families often reward the fixed mindset without realizing it. We praise kids for being so smart, instead of praising them for being curious. We celebrate effortless achievement instead of relentless effort. And slowly, we start to believe that ease equals talent. But here's the truth. What comes easy usually doesn't last. Dweck's experiments at Stanford revealed something powerful. She gave two groups of students a set of problems to solve. One group was told, "You must be really smart." The other group was told, "You must have worked really hard." When given harder problems next time, the smart group gave up faster, afraid to lose their label. But the hard-working group tried longer, failed more, and ended up performing better. That's the mind's secret trap. When you define yourself by ability, you protect your ego. When you define yourself by growth, you protect your potential. In real life, the same thing happens everywhere. The artist who stops experimenting after success. The entrepreneur who avoids risk after his first failure. The student who chooses easy subjects to maintain their GPA. Each of them slowly builds their own invisible ceiling, not because the world limits them, but because their mindset does. It's the difference between, "I can't do this," and "I can't do this yet." That one word, "yet," is the language of the growth mindset. It carries possibility. It keeps you open. It gives you permission to evolve. Let's make it real. Think about Thomas Edison. He failed more than 10,000 times before inventing the light bulb. When a journalist asked, "How did it feel to fail 10,000 times?" Edison said, "I didn't fail. I just found 10,000 ways that didn't work." That's not optimism, that's a mindset. Now think about the opposite. How many people quit after one rejection, one bad review, one heartbreak, one lost job? They don't fail because they lack skill. They fail because they stop trying. The mind is a strange machine. It adapts to whatever story you feed it. Tell it that failure defines you and it will. Tell it that failure refines you and it will. You are not your results. You are your response to them. And that's what separates those who grow from those who stay stuck. The truth is, your brain is still learning how to learn. The science of neuroplasticity proves that your neurons rewire themselves based on effort, attention, and belief. Your brain is not a fixed system. It's a living organism that constantly reshapes itself around your mindset, which means you are never truly stuck. You just stopped believing you could move. So next time you face something hard, stop asking, "Can I do this?" Start asking, "How can I learn this?" Because that small change of question might just change your entire life. We grow up in a world obsessed with talent. From childhood, we're told that some people are just naturals. The genius child, the born leader, the gifted athlete. We admire them, we envy them, we try to be like them. But in that silent admiration hides a dangerous belief that greatness is something you either have or you don't. Carol Dweck calls this the talent trap, the illusion that ability is fixed, that it's written into your DNA like an unchangeable script. And once you believe that, your life quietly starts to shrink. You stop trying new things. You avoid anything that might expose your limits. You choose being seen as good over actually getting better. It sounds small, but this belief rewires everything. When a fixed mindset person fails, they don't just fail at a task, they fail as a person. That's why they fear mistakes so much. But the irony? That fear guarantees mediocrity, because when you run from failure, you also run from growth. Let's step into the mind of two athletes. One of them, let's call him Jake, is told he's a natural talent. Everyone praises his effortless wins. The other, Adam, is told he works hard, that his dedication stands out. At first, Jake dominates, but when both hit their first wall, the difference becomes visible. Jake quits faster. He's afraid his effort will prove he's not special. Adam pushes harder. He doesn't care about proving. He's focused on improving. A few years later, Adam's the champion. Jake? He's still talking about what he used to be. This story repeats in classrooms, in companies, in relationships. Fixed mindset people attach their identity to being right. Growth mindset people attach their identity to becoming better. The first one wants to look perfect. The second one wants to learn endlessly. And here's where most of us get it wrong. We mistake ease for excellence. We think if something feels difficult, it must not be meant for us. But difficulty is not a sign of weakness. It's the evidence of evolution. The discomfort you feel while learning something new is literally your brain forming new neural connections. Struggle isn't a signal to stop, it's a sign you're growing. Dweck's research showed that kids who believed in effort, not talent, were far more resilient later in life. When they failed, they didn't say, "I can't do this." They said, "I haven't figured it out yet." That one word, yet, became their weapon. In fact, some neuroscientists now call this the yet effect, the mindset shift that keeps curiosity alive even in frustration. Think about your own life. How many things did you quit simply because you thought you weren't good at it? Maybe it was music, writing, fitness, or public speaking. The truth is, you didn't lack talent. You just lacked time and patience. We live in an era addicted to instant results. If we can't master it in a week, we assume it's not meant for us. But the real masters, from Elon Musk to Serena Williams, all share one hidden trait. They love the grind. They fall in love with the process, not just the applause. In the fixed mindset, you say, "If I fail, I'm a failure." In the growth mindset, you say, "If I fail, I'm learning." One destroys your confidence, the other builds your legacy. The growth mindset doesn't deny pain, it redefines it. It says, "Yes, it hurts, but this pain is proof I'm becoming something new." Because evolution has never been comfortable, it's meant to break what's weak in you so what's strong can rise. So next time you see someone doing something effortlessly, remember, you're not seeing the hours of failure behind that moment. You're just seeing the highlight reel of their persistence. Talent might open the door, but effort builds the empire. What separates legends from the rest isn't just talent. It's how they think when no one's watching. It's easy to look confident when you're winning. The real test is what happens after you lose. Every champion, from Michael Jordan to Serena Williams, has one invisible advantage. Not genetics, not luck, but a mindset built on relentless curiosity and brutal self-honesty. When Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team, he didn't sulk. He trained harder than anyone else in that gym. When Serena lost, she didn't collapse. She studied every mistake frame by frame. That's what Dweck calls the growth in action mindset, the art of turning pain into data. The opposite is the fixed mindset trap we see everywhere. The athlete who peaks once and fades, the CEO who stops learning after success, the artist who refuses to evolve. They start believing their own myth, and that's when decline begins. Because once you stop learning, you start dying. In the world of business, mindset is the invisible line between innovation and irrelevance. Look at companies that changed the world: Apple, Tesla, SpaceX, Netflix. Every one of them was built by people who believed problems exist to be solved, not feared. Steve Jobs didn't just build products, he built possibilities. Elon Musk fails publicly almost every year, but he treats failure like a design iteration, not a disaster. That's the growth mindset on a planetary scale. Now let's flip to leadership, because here's where mindset gets personal. A fixed mindset leader says, "I'm the smartest person in the room." A growth mindset leader says, "I want the smartest people in the room." The first one craves control. The second one creates culture. One protects their ego, the other empowers everyone around them. Carol Dweck observed that growth-oriented leaders actually perform better under pressure because they see challenges as puzzles, not threats. They don't take criticism as an insult. They take it as feedback. That's why great teams don't just follow, they thrive. But here's the plot twist most people don't expect. Your mindset doesn't just shape your success. It also shapes your relationships. Think about it. In a fixed mindset relationship, people believe love should be effortless. If it's hard, maybe it's not meant to be. But real love, the kind that survives chaos and time, is built on a growth mindset. It says, "We're both learning how to love better." It allows mistakes, conversations, and emotional repair. It turns fights into lessons and flaws into opportunities to grow closer. The best couples aren't perfect. They're evolving together. It's the same pattern everywhere. Fixed mindset asks, "Will this make me look good?" Growth mindset asks, "Will this make me better?" If you've ever wondered why some people seem unstoppable, it's because they treat every situation, whether it's losing a job, failing a test, or ending a relationship, as a lab for growth. They don't collapse under failure. They extract meaning from it, and that's the real difference. You can't control what happens to you, but you can always control the story you tell yourself about it. The fixed mindset says, "This is the end." The growth mindset whispers, "This is the beginning." The truth is, every success story you admire, every athlete, artist, inventor, leader, is built on invisible layers of rejection, self-doubt, and rebuilding. The difference is that they never saw failure as identity, only as information. So next time you fail, don't ask, "Why me?" Ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" That single shift of question can turn tragedy into training. Because in the end, success isn't about being perfect. It's about being plastic, flexible enough to grow beyond who you were yesterday. No one is born with a mindset. We inherit it from the voices that raise us. Think about your earliest memories, the teacher who said, "You're a natural at this," or the parent who sighed, "You're just not good at math." We don't realize it at the time, but those sentences plant invisible codes inside us. Some grow into confidence, some grow into cages. Carol Dweck discovered something revolutionary. The way adults praise effort versus talent directly programs a child's brain. When a parent says, "You're so smart," the child learns to protect that image. When they fail, they feel shame. But when a parent says, "I love how hard you worked on that," the child learns that progress, not perfection, earns love. One creates fear, the other creates freedom. It's not about being positive all the time. It's about being precise with our words. Because kids don't just hear what you say, they internalize what you believe about them. In one experiment, 2 groups of students solved puzzles. The talent group was praised for being smart. The effort group was praised for their persistence. Later, when given harder puzzles, the smart group avoided them. They didn't want to lose their image. The effort group leaned in, enjoyed the challenge, and grew faster. Same kids, same brains, different programming. That's how early mindsets form, not from genes, but from feedback. Every compliment, every label, every moment of silence shapes how we see ourselves. Teachers play a huge role here. A fixed mindset teacher divides the class into gifted and average. A growth mindset teacher sees potential in everyone. The first gives up on students who struggle. The second knows that struggle is the curriculum. The first says, "You're not a math person." The second says, "You just haven't found your way yet." That single word, "yet," is a lifeline that changes the way a student's brain responds to difficulty. And mentors, coaches, and managers, they're the adult version of that same voice. A coach who yells, "You'll never be good enough," doesn't build drive, he builds fear. But a coach who says, "You're not there yet, but I see progress," builds grit. That's why the best mentors don't flatter. They challenge you. They hold you to a higher standard, but they never make your worth conditional on success. Even workplaces mirror this. A company with a fixed culture punishes failure and rewards only results. A company with a growth culture rewards learning, experimentation, and resilience. Guess which one innovates faster? Now think about your own upbringing. Were you praised for being right or for trying? Were you taught to chase validation or curiosity? The answers to those questions might explain more about your confidence today than any personality test ever could. But here's the beauty of it. Awareness is the first rewrite. Even if you grew up hearing, "You're not enough," you can become the parent, teacher, or mentor who breaks that cycle. Because mindsets are contagious. Kids don't just inherit our DNA, they absorb our attitude toward effort, failure, and change. So if you want to raise confident children, teach students who take ownership or lead teams that never give up. Stop praising identity. Start praising process. Don't say, "You're talented." Say, "You've improved so much." Don't say, "You're perfect." Say, "You handled that challenge like a pro." It sounds simple, but that shift rewires how people relate to growth. The future belongs to those who believe they can still evolve. And that belief begins in childhood, in classrooms, and in every conversation where someone looks at us and says, "You can learn this." Let's be honest, knowing about growth mindset is easy. Living it is hard, because by the time we're adults, our brains have built walls, stories we tell ourselves about who we are and who we're not. I'm bad at public speaking. I'm just not creative. I'll never change. These aren't facts. They're scripts. And like every script, they can be rewritten. Carol Dweck's biggest revelation wasn't that people have different mindsets. It was that mindsets can change. The human brain is not static. It's plastic, a living network that can rewire itself with every new thought and habit. That process is called neuroplasticity, and it means one thing: you are not stuck, ever. But rewiring your brain doesn't happen with motivational quotes. It begins with awareness, catching that internal voice when it says, "I can't," and responding, "Not yet." That's the real inner war, not between success and failure, but between comfort and curiosity. The comfort voice says, "Stay safe. Don't try." The curiosity voice says, "What if I just explore?" Every time you choose curiosity, you create a new neural pathway, one that makes future courage a little easier. That's the microscopic miracle of mindset. Here's the truth. Transformation isn't about positive thinking. It's about accurate thinking. It's looking at a problem and saying, "Yeah, this is hard, and I can learn it." It's replacing guilt with growth. Dweck says that mindset change happens in 4 stages. 1. Recognition. You start noticing your fixed mindset triggers. The fear of failure, the need to prove yourself, the instant frustration when things aren't easy. 2. Awareness. You realize that those thoughts are not you. They're just habits your brain built for protection. 3. Replacement. You swap your old reactions for better ones. Instead of "I can't do this," you say, "I'm learning how." 4. Reinforcement. You practice it enough that the new mindset becomes your default setting. It's like muscle training. You can't just decide to be strong. You build it through resistance, through repetition. Every failure is your rep, and you will fail. That's the point, because each failure creates friction, and friction creates growth. If life feels too smooth, you're not growing. If it hurts a little, you're expanding. But most people sabotage this process by treating failure as a verdict, not feedback. They quit the moment things stop being easy. Growth mindset means staying long enough to see what the pain is trying to teach you. It's not glamorous, it's not cinematic, it's quiet, lonely, uncomfortable. But that's how rewiring happens, not in moments of victory, but in moments of vulnerability. One exercise Dweck suggests is writing down your fixed mindset thoughts and then answering them like a coach would. For example, "I'm just not confident enough." Answer, "Confidence is built, not born. Every time I speak, I'm training that muscle." "I failed last time." Answer, "Good. That means I tried something hard. Let's extract the lesson." It's not delusion. It's reprogramming. You're teaching your mind to replace judgment with curiosity, and over time this rewiring doesn't just change your career or goals, it changes your identity. You stop saying, "I am this type of person," and start saying, "I'm becoming this type of person." That single shift unlocks the future. So, if you've ever felt trapped in old patterns, here's your truth. Your brain is not a stone, it's clay. Every experience, every struggle, every "I can't" you challenge reshapes it. Change isn't about force, it's about consistency. Because the human mind is like a garden. You can't control the weather, but you can choose what to plant. And if you keep planting effort, curiosity, and resilience, one day, without even noticing, you'll wake up stronger than you ever imagined. What happens when an entire group shares the same mindset? That's where the real power begins, because one person with a growth mindset can change their life. But a team with a growth mindset can change the world. Every successful movement, from NASA's moon landing to SpaceX's reusable rockets, runs on a single principle. We don't fail, we learn. That's not just a motivational slogan, it's a cultural operating system. Carol Dweck found that organizations mirror the psychology of the people who lead them. A company with a fixed mindset lives on fear. Employees hide mistakes, innovation dies, and everyone pretends to be perfect. But in a growth mindset company, failure is part of the design. People share feedback openly, leaders admit when they're wrong, and curiosity replaces blame. And when that happens, creativity explodes. Think of Pixar. Their creative process is built on something called the brain trust, a brutal yet safe meeting where directors and writers tear each other's work apart, not to shame, but to improve. That's growth mindset in motion. Every film you love, Toy Story, Finding Nemo, Inside Out, came from that environment of fearless honesty. Compare that to a typical corporate culture where saying, "I don't know," feels like weakness. That's fixed mindset, where image matters more than improvement. But the truth is, pretending to be perfect kills progress. Because learning requires vulnerability. The same rule applies to startups, universities, sports teams, even families. When leaders reward effort, collaboration, and learning, not just outcomes, the entire system evolves faster. People stop competing against each other and start competing with their own potential. That shift in focus, from proving to improving, changes everything. In Silicon Valley, some of the best founders aren't the smartest people in the room. They're the most curious. They fail fast, pivot faster, and treat experiments as tuition. Jeff Bezos once said, "If you double the number of experiments you do per year, you double your inventiveness." That's not business advice. That's mindset philosophy. Even in science and medicine, the story is the same. Progress doesn't come from perfection, it comes from iteration. Einstein once said, "I'm not smarter, I just stay with problems longer." That's the voice of someone who learned to see difficulty as a playground, not a prison. Now imagine applying that to your own work. What if your team meetings weren't about who's right, but about what's possible? What if you stopped asking who messed this up and started asking, what can we learn from this? Those questions build trust, and trust builds innovation. Psychologists have even measured it. Teams with a growth-oriented culture outperform others in creativity, retention, and mental well-being. Because people thrive when it's safe to fail. And this isn't just about work, it's about humanity. The growth mindset is a rebellion against shame. It says you're allowed to be a work in progress. You're allowed to admit you don't know. You're allowed to evolve. The best leaders understand this deeply. They don't demand perfection. They design systems where people can keep growing. They replace punishment with feedback, silence with dialogue, and fear with experimentation. That's how they build teams that last longer than hype. Because here's the truth. Success built on fear collapses. Success built on curiosity compounds. And when you look back at every revolution, creative, technological, or social, you'll see one thing in common. People who believed that good enough was never the limit. They weren't waiting to be geniuses. They were willing to look foolish, learn publicly, and keep improving. That's the essence of growth mindset. Not the absence of failure, but the refusal to stop learning. So whether you're leading a company, managing a classroom, or just navigating your own journey. Remember, the most powerful phrase a leader can say isn't, "I know." It's, "Let's find out." At some point you realize, your life isn't defined by what you've achieved, but by how you respond when things don't go your way. That's the moment your mindset becomes your mirror. When you fail and say, "I'm not good enough," the mirror reflects fear. When you fail and say, "I'm still learning," the mirror reflects power. That's the difference between staying stuck in your past and building your future. Carol Dweck's mindset isn't just about success, it's about liberation, freeing yourself from the illusion that your worth depends on performance. Because the truth is, your potential isn't a limit. It's a direction. Every person you admire, from artists to athletes to inventors, has faced rejection, ridicule, or regret. But the ones who rise aren't those born with special gifts. They're the ones who believed that effort could rewrite destiny. Take J.K. Rowling, rejected by a dozen publishers before Harry Potter became a global phenomenon. Or Elon Musk, whose early rockets exploded before ever reaching orbit. Or Oprah Winfrey, fired from her first job for being too emotional. Different stories, same pattern. A refusal to let failure be the final word. That's growth mindset in motion, not a philosophy, but a way of living. And the craziest part? Once you start to see the world through that lens, you realize everything is training. Every heartbreak, every loss, every no, all of it was the gym where your future self was being built. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this teaching me?" That question alone changes your reality. Because the moment you switch from victim to student, you take back control. The power was never outside you. It was in your interpretation of the struggle. And this shift doesn't just shape individuals, it changes entire societies. When a culture starts rewarding effort, creativity, and learning instead of only success, innovation explodes. When classrooms stop grading identity and start grading improvement, students rediscover curiosity. When leaders stop asking for perfection and start asking for progress, people show up with their whole hearts. This is the world Dweck envisioned, one where growth replaces fear and learning replaces judgment. But it starts small, with you. With the way you talk to yourself after a mistake, with the way you treat others when they fall short, with the patience to sit inside discomfort instead of escaping it. It starts when you say, "I'm not done yet," and that yet becomes your superpower. Because the truth is, your mindset is not something you're born with. It's something you build every single day through the thoughts you choose, the feedback you accept, and the courage you show when nobody's watching. And the reward? Freedom. Freedom from the fear of failure. Freedom from comparison. Freedom from the idea that you need to arrive somewhere to be worthy. The real victory isn't success, it's progress. And the real question isn't, "Am I talented enough?" It's, "Am I willing to learn?" That's the mindset that creates innovators, healers, dreamers, the kind of people who don't wait for permission to evolve. Because they already know the secret. You don't need to be perfect to start. You just need to start to become perfect. So if you're watching this wondering whether you can change your career, heal a relationship, or rebuild your life, the answer is yes. Not instantly, but infinitely. Because a growth mindset doesn't promise an easy life. It promises a meaningful one. And maybe that's all success really is. The courage to keep becoming.